Good afternoon, Mr. Kerr. I would like to tell you about the new polar bear enclosure that I have designed that will be a great addition to Taronga Zoo. With this new enclosure, the polar bears will be able to live a happy and safe life as it will be built to reflect an Arctic summer environment, much like the exhibit at SeaWorld in Queensland where the polar bears are thriving. I have put together a model design of the enclosure, which you will see will give the polar bears plenty of room to move around as it will be able to swim, stay cool, and have their privacy away from zoo visitors when they need it. Also taken into consideration with the exhibit are needs of the zookeepers and how the exhibit will engage the visitors. Which has been built to a scale of 1 centimetre to every 1 metre. The average male polar bear is between 2.4 and 3 metres long. My enclosure is 56 meters wide and 35 meters long. It has 2 main pools for the polar bears to swim in. The largest pool being 22 meters long, 18 meters wide, and 14 meters deep. Around the pool there are plenty of rocks for the polar bear to climb on, trees for shelter, and toys including balls for the polar bear to play with. Even though the exhibit is not exactly like the Arctic, researchers says that making the enclosure as close as the polar bear's natural environment is one of the things that will help them thrive in captivity. Here in my enclosure, I've added a gravel pit which can have food buried so the polar bears can dig for food like they would in the wild. And to keep the polar bears cool, in addition to the pools, a sprinkler system has been added which gives off fine, icy, cold mist all day. No smear! Polar bears are visible to the public from a viewing area that has glass across the whole enclosure, and visitors can watch the polar bear swim, play, and dig. Also, there are information boards at each end of the exhibit which state many facts about the polar bear. If the polar bear is feeling like quiet time, there is a tunnel between one of the pools in the viewing exhibit which goes through to a private enclosed area behind the public exhibit. Here the polar bear can swim or have a sleep off one of the rocks without being watched. This indoor area is air conditioned for the polar bear's comfort. Behind the main exhibit is the control room. This is where the zookeepers can keep an eye on the polar bear. Cameras have been set up in the enclosure so the polar bear's well-being can be monitored and the zookeeper can remain safe. There is also a sliding door near the control room where food for the polar bear is left. The zookeeper is able to see if the polar bear is nearby, so would wait until it is safe before opening the door to deliver the food. I think this new polar bear enclosure would be a great and excellent addition to Taronga Zoo. The polar bears are able to adapt to Australia's warmer environments as long as their environmental needs are accommodated. The main abiotic and biotic needs of the polar bear are the cold and water. My enclosure with the mist, pools and air conditioners can replicate the summer Arctic environment quite well.